Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the revered speaker for today, His Grace Pandit Srivas Prabhu. And all glories to assembled Vaishnavi devotees. We thank you all for being here as always. And Prabhuji, we're very grateful that you could be here with us today. I think we have only one verse to cover today, but as usual, it's fully loaded. Uh, So without further ado, we may put the verse on the screen and you take it over from here. Hare Krishna.
So, Hare Krishna, everyone. I just want to make sure that I'm audible.
Very
Okay.
audible, yes.
Okay, very good. Very good. In my obeisances to all of you. It's said that when somebody either leads a kirtan or says something, shares a presentation, they are acting simply as a conduit, as just a connector between whoever gave that knowledge, so which is our Gurujanas, and Krishna. So I'm just that conductor, and I'm here also because just the act of doing that purifies one. Okay, so it will be a little bit involved discussion. I hope that is okay with all of you. If you want to stop the involved discussion and go on the surface anytime, just let me know. Okay, so then we will not go deep. All right, so let's get into
Of
our
course,
Mangalachanam.
we
Yeah,
want to go deep.
we'll see about that. So,
Yes.
Prabhu, if you please permit me to share my screen, then I can
Sure.
go ahead and share.
Yes. Um, Salika, are you there to do that?
Okay, so looks like you are the host now, Sadeh Prabhu, and then if you can make me co-host, then that'll be great.
Yes. Yeah, you may.
Okay, perfect. It's wonderful. This is exciting. All right, we'll start with Mangalacharan. I've put that in front of you.
Mhm.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Prachanine Nirvishesha Shunyavati Pashyate Deshatani. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashta Prayeshva Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshay Shiptascha Kamadhitaranga Madhye Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishavana Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So today we were going to talk about this beautiful dialogue that happens between Swayambhuva Manu and Kardama Muni. Okay. So, Sadev Prabhu, would you mind reading the Sanskrit and the translation, please?
All right. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Tad darshanotgatan pranan pratyadishtur evotitaha sa sadashyanugo vanya indriyesho gunan eva. Translation. Seeing the four Kumaras, Prithu Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj was greatly anxious to receive them. Therefore, the king with all his officers very hastily got up, as anxiously as a conditioned soul whose senses are immediately attracted
Are
by
we
the
reading
modes
the
of
same
material
verse,
nature.
Prabhu? Are you still reading the same verse, 3:22:3?
Oh, I was reading a different verse altogether. 3:22.
3:20. You'll see that on my screen over here.
Okay. Tad Tranad. The print is a little tiny.
Okay.
Okay. It's better now. It's better. Good. Tat Tranaya Shrach Chasman Do Sahashrapat Hridayam Tasya Hi Brahma Shatram Angama Prachakshate. For the protection of the Brahmins and the thousand-legged Supreme Being created us, the Kshatriyas, from his 1,000 arms. Hence, the Brahmins are said to be his heart, and the Kshatriyas his arms. Kshatriyas are specifically meant to maintain the Brahmins because if the Brahmins are protected, then the head of civilization is protected. Brahmins are supposed to be the head of the social body. If the head is clear and has not gone mad, then everything is in proper position. The Lord is described thus: Namo Brahmanya Devayago Brahmana Hitayacha. The purport of this prayer is that the Lord specifically protects the Brahmins and the cows, and then he protects all other members of society, Jagat Ditaya. It is his will that universal welfare work depends on the protection of cows and Brahmins. Thus, Brahmanical culture and cow protection are the basic principles for human civilization. Kshatriyas are especially meant to protect the Brahmins, as is the supreme will of the Lord. Go Brahmana Hitayacha. As the heart is a very important part within the body, so the Brahmins are also the important element in human society. The Kshatriyas are more like the whole body, even though the whole body is bigger than the heart. The heart is more important.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Am I audible still?
Still,
Good.
yes.
Okay,
Very
very good. All right, so just to set the context before we go deeper into this verse, right? So context is what? The context is Kardama Muni has been meditating. He was given a very sacred duty that please increase the population of this universe, of this planet. And so he meditates. He's like, okay, I'm not just, I'm not interested in quantity, I'm interested in quality. And so he meditates, and the Supreme Lord comes in front of him, and he has this beautiful dialogue, pretty much just in the previous chapter, with Lord Narayan, and who blesses him that yes, you will find a suitable person, suitable partner with whom you can then get the amazing, suitable son that you're seeking, which is essentially going to be me only, but coming in over here as your son, being born as your child. And then, as soon as the Lord leaves, just by the Lord's arrangement, Swayambhuva Manu comes over here with his daughter, Devahuti. And when Swayambhuva Manu, who's at this point of time the emperor of the universe, he comes in, Kardama Muni very nicely greets him. It's a lesson in etiquette. How do you greet a guest? And so Kardama Muni says such beautiful words of praise. They say, oh, I'm so glad you've come. I'm so honored that you're over here. and you are such and such a great person. And so now it is the king's turn to reciprocate. Okay, so the king is now basically saying exactly what we read over here, which is, look, for the protection of the Brahmanas, the thousand-legged supreme being created us, the Kshatriyas. So he's talking about himself and his clan from his 1,000 arms. Hence, the Brahmanas are said to be his heart and the Kshatriyas his arms. So obviously, just by reading this one shloka, you can realize that this is a continuation of the previous shloka, where the tenets of Varnashrama, or at least the Varnas, are very nicely laid out by none other than Swayambhuva Manu. And in this purport, Srila Prabhupada talks a little bit about the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, and he designates specific duties to these specific limbs of society. And he obviously underscores the importance of the Brahmanas. So today we will meditate a little bit on what must the heart be. So there are two aspects of the body mentioned over here. What must the heart be, and what must the arms do? Okay. Where was the arms? So wherever it was, I think created us, the 1,000-leg created us from his 1,000 arms. What must the arms do? For a community to remain spiritually alive. That will be our goal today. Okay. So let's now go deeper into our discussion. Let's start sharing this so you can see this. Okay. So we'll do this esoteric and very practical study of this particular shloka. The images are AI generated. I thought that would be nice. But if the images are disturbing to anyone, you can choose to close your eyes while the images are being displayed. Okay. So obviously, as you can see the tagline over here, the wisdom, which is the Brahmana's main role, is to provide wisdom. And it gives the direction. It sets the mission goals, the vision goals, and so on. It gives that direction for that society to progress. And the power gives protection. So the Kshatriyas are really the ones who are providing that protection through their power. And the cooperation, not just between these two, but in the entire elements of this, all the varnas of the society, it pleases Lord Hari. And actually, if we look at it, today we will discuss how the main goal is really to provide that cooperation for the pleasure to Lord Hari. Okay. So let's see. So today we are going to study a little bit about what these varnas are looking like, and then we'll draw from our experiences, because we have a opinion about varna. We have heard Srila Prabhupada's opinion about varna. We have experienced varna in action, and so we will look at that, and then we'll discern it a little bit. Like, okay, is this kind of varnashram what we are really looking for? Is that kind of varnashram what we are looking for? What is varnashram and what is it not? And then we will see how we can apply that in our life. Okay. So we have started the journey by entering this verse, and we will frame this session as if it is like an inquiry rather than as identity labeling, that, oh, we are such and such, or he is such and such, or she is such and such. And the goal that we will look at is Haritoshnam. So the service, qualification, cooperation, Haritoshnam. These four things will be our goal, not the social superiority. We will stray away from, hey, Brahmana is better, Kshatriya is better, Vaishya is better, Shudra is better, or this is inferior. That's not our goal. Our goal is service. How do we engage these varnas into service? How do we engage? How do we identify qualifications so we know how to get into different varnas, ourselves and others who are under our protection? How will we generate cooperation between the varnas? And the central point of it is Haritoshanam. Okay. All right. So let's look at this shloka again. So there are two things over here. Well, three words really. So there is trana, the word over here, tat rana yas raj yasrijak, tat rana yasrijak chasman. Okay, so over here the word trana is there. Trana means protection. Okay, and the Lord is basically saying that, hey, I have not, well, not the Lord, but over here, Swambhuva Manu is saying the Lord has designated us to provide protection. But protection for what? Protection to safeguard a very important part of the society which sustains the spiritual intelligence. If that part, it's like this pearl inside a treasure chest. If that is not protected and that pearl is lost, then the goals are somehow lost, or at the very least, they are diminished. Okay? So, this, therefore, the Trana part is very, very important. The second part is Hridayam Tasya Hi Brahma. So the Hridaya part, the Lord mentions like, okay, this is, it's from our heart, from the Lord's heart, the Brahmanas are created. But what does the heart represent over here? It represents Vidya. Vidya is the reason why jivas are somehow or the other completely entrapped in this material universe is because of avidya, because of ignorance. So somebody has to tell them that, oh, my dear friends, first of all, you're not the body, you're the soul. Secondly, not only are you the soul, you're also a spiritual entity who is eternally connected to your Supreme Lord. Okay? So there is that you're a part and parcel of the Lord. Not only are you part and parcel of the Lord, you're also the servant of the Lord. Your goal is to serve the Lord. Not only is your goal to serve the Lord, but it is actually to simply awaken the natural intrinsic love which you have, which is somehow or the other buried in your heart. So providing identity, providing the understanding of relationship, providing the understanding of the purpose, providing the understanding of the goal, providing the understanding of the process. So all of this are functions of this heart, of the metaphoric heart. And this heart, therefore, that it represents discernment, it represents sacred learning, it represents devotion. But in addition to these three, it also represents, put some guardrails out there. The guardrails are provided by the Lord Himself through His being a Chaitya Guru, through His being an internal guide. And then He speaks to us through this voice. And some of us think about this voice as the conscience. Okay. It says, oh, do this. Oh, be inspired to do that. Be afraid to do this other thing. Oh, here's some guilt so that you have some remorse of what you should have done but did not do, and so on. Okay. So this heart, therefore, is not just when we think about heart as the Brahmanas, it's not just the bunch of people in the society. This also represents something very internal, very intrinsic to us. Okay. And then you, of course, the last part of it, Shatramangam Prachakshate. So over here, the Lord's arms or limbs are mentioned by Swayambhuva Manu. And not just that he mentions, in a sense, like from his 1,000 arms, right? So because you're talking about the universal form of the Lord over here, right? So the strength, those arms represent strength. And that strength becomes self-serving when the heart is polluted. It becomes exploitative when the heart is polluted. It becomes degrading when the heart is polluted. But when the heart is in the right place, then the strength becomes sacred. And when it becomes sacred, it doesn't just think about self-preservation or self-fulfillment. It thinks about the protection and the service of the entire body, okay, of the whole. And over here, the whole has two meanings, two layers of meanings. So the first layer of meaning is the whole society. Because after all, we see through the metaphor that the Lord is talking about his limbs and his hearts and his head and his, all of those things as parts of his body, as constituent members of the society. So naturally, the protection over here and the strength over here becomes something which is enjoyed by the society. But then the second layer of meaning is, whose body are we talking about? Society represents what? So society represents, after all, the ultimate goal, which is the pleasure of the Lord, Haritoshanam. So, in other words, the strength also is becoming sacred because it helps with somehow or the other with doing the services it is meant to do for the pleasure of the Lord. Okay. So, we look now through this into a different uh, lenses, because varnashram is a very big topic, as it should be, within our society and within society at large, right? We have many people have different opinions about varnashram. Should we do it? Should we not do it? Is this the right way? Is it Devi varnashram? Is it not? And so on. If I do it like this, then what will happen? What will happen to my family, my job, my ambitions, my this, my that? Are we mature enough to do this? So we now look at it from a little bit different lenses. But first, we have to ask ourselves a couple of questions. Number one, where have we seen insight without protection? Can you think about it? Insight, like, I'm free to think like this. I'm free to experience like that, right? I'm free to reflect like this. Okay. In a society where there's repression, you cannot actually have that freedom for insight. It's not possible. And it doesn't have to be like a authoritarian society. It could be even within our household. You might have seen that, sometimes our family members are discouraging us to think differently, to experience, the Hare Krishna movement, for example, or whatever it is, and we feel oppressed. And so that insight is very difficult for us to exercise and have without proper protection. And the other thing is also true, other side, which is, where have we seen power without wisdom? And this is not necessarily like, oh, I saw it here and there and there. That's there. We see it all across the world. I get that. But where the point of this question is, wherever we have seen power without wisdom, we have seen that that society has degraded. And we see this all across. In fact, this is one thing which we can even close our eyes and see. We don't even have to have our eyes open to see this thing, right? So just some silent reflection. So we now look at it purely from the ontology standpoint. Look, let's now look at the social body. We saw that, hey, power without wisdom is a disaster. Insight without protection doesn't really have much depth. It doesn't have any meaning. Maybe it will hardly even germinate, right? So the social body is not just this efficiency model, right? Oh, this person does that, that person does that, all the parts of a machine working together. No, no, no. There is a little bit of higher purpose over there. It has to become, and it can become, this offering within the universal form of the Lord, right? So that is the deeper esoteric version, the definition of varnashrama. Okay, it is that offering within that universal form. And then through that offering, just like there is reciprocity between the Lord and his devotees, that reciprocity is carried through all the living entities. That reciprocity exists even within the components that the Lord has created. That the arms cannot live in isolation, the heart cannot live in isolation, the stomach cannot live in isolation. So the heart cannot enforce. The arms should not invent the ultimate purpose. Okay? They shouldn't be doing what they are not supposed to do, but the other one is supposed to do. The heart's job is to invent the ultimate purpose, not to enforce. The arm's job is not to, come up with the aspects of the guidance of the society from a purely from a spiritual wisdom standpoint. No, it's not. Its job is to enforce. So its job is to provide the power. So the wisdom coming from the heart, from these brahmanas, it gives power. It guides power. And this power, which is carried by this important member of the society, it protects this with wisdom. There is this saying that dharma protects one who protects itself, right? So if you protect dharma, then dharma will protect you. Okay. So over here, the metaphoric you, the pronoun you refers to the Kshatriyas, the ones who are eligible, who are able to protect dharma, dharma in turn protects them. Okay. But then we also have this component in our psychology, it's embedded in our DNA, that nothing happens without a reason, right? So that is teleology. Nothing happens with it. There's a purpose behind everything. So then what is the purpose behind the existence of this varnashrama? Why did the Lord even spend so much of energy trying to make this society in a certain way? Because it pleases him. Why does it please him? It pleases him because it provides a peace of mind to all these living entities who are anyways agitated. Why are they agitated? Because they've turned their face away from the Lord. That's so naturally they are agitated. Why are they naturally agitated? Because they are not happy. Why are they not happy? Because they belong to a certain nature, they belong in the ocean, and now they are in land. Where is the ocean? The ocean is in the spiritual world. That's why they're unhappy. That's why they're dissatisfied. That's why they're agitated. That's why they need to come into an environment where the agitation is reduced. Not only is it reduced, it is somehow or the other directed towards a higher purpose. And when it's directed sufficiently towards that higher purpose, they can then make progress in their spiritual journey. When they make progress in the spiritual journey, they get closer and closer to Krishna. When they get closer and closer to Krishna, it pleases the Lord. Haritoshana. That is the reason, that's the purpose behind this whole creation of Varnashrama. Okay. All right. So let's talk about these four limbs then, or the four areas rather. Heart, arms, stomach, legs. We've seen this example in so many purports, so many lectures of Srila Prabhupada, so many other conversations that we've had, right? So think about it. I don't know whether we can do it in groups, maybe not. I created this slide so that we could do it, but it's okay. We can just meditate just for 30 seconds. Okay. Now let's say heart. Sadev Prabhu, you will take up on hearts. And let's see who else is here. I want to give maybe Anadi Prabhu, you can think about arms. Okay. And Rupanuga Prabhu, you can think about stomach. And Yashoda Devi, Prabhu, you can think about legs. So just think about these. And then all of us are also thinking like that. But we'll use these four amazing Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis as mediums for this interactive discussion, right? So, Sadev Prabhu, you're thinking about hearts. Okay. What principles and standards of the heart must remain non-negotiable? So, if you want to, I can dissect this question a little bit, so it
Yeah,
becomes a
please
little
do.
simpler. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what is the contribution of the heart?
One major contribution of the heart to the body is life itself.
Okay.
If the heart stops working, then the rest of the limbs or senses after a while also stop working. So the heart is
Okay.
like the life of the entire body.
Okay. Okay. Now, look at this case which I have put in front of us, and now we will answer the same question. So you answered this with in the context of the body. So
Yes.
now we will answer this in the context of this case study we see in front of us. There's a children's community program, right? Community children's program. It is growing, but there are these safeguarding procedures. There's teacher formation, there's funding, and there's volunteer activity. And all of these are uneven. Okay, so they are uncoordinated. There's lack of cooperation. Some are sometimes working very efficiently, but then other times not working very efficiently, and so on and so forth. So the heart is represented by what over here? The heart is represented by the teacher formation over here in this example, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now think about the same thing which you said. What is the contribution of this teacher formation in this community? What are they going to do?
It gives guidance.
It gives guidance. Okay, what else?
Um,
It generates the curriculum. Okay.
yes.
It
Yes.
it creates the values. So the curriculum is not just, oh, we are going to do, learn these. There has to be some thought behind the purpose
Behind
behind
it.
why, right?
Yeah. Yes.
If we read this, then this will incorporate these leadership qualities, whether they are, strength or confidence or whatever, and so on and so forth, right? It instills behavior. So it forms the framework and of etiquette. This is how the students will behave. This is how the teachers will behave. This is how administrator will behave, and so on and so forth, right? So all of these, to an extent, from the knowledge standpoint, not necessarily from an administrative standpoint, from a knowledge standpoint, is the role of these brahmanas, these teachers within this community, the heart within this community. Okay. So now the Prabhu who was doing arms, I forgot who is it was it Anadi Prabhu?
Another, yes.
Yes. Anadi Prabhu, think about now that you have an idea about what we are looking for in this community. Think about what the arms must be doing. What must be protected within
Yeah,
this community.
Listen, Prabhu, I am in a moving vehicle. Hardly I can
Oh,
hear you.
okay.
So if
All
you
right.
can let someone
Okay,
else.
no problem, no problem. Okay, I'll do this. So with all your help, what must be protected? Sadeh Prabhu, you only tell me what in this community, this children's community program, which is growing, what has to be protected?
Uh, the children's program.
Okay, that's very broad. Can you narrow it down?
Okay. The children themselves have to be protected
Very nice. The children themselves have to
from,
be
yeah,
protected.
from
Okay.
any external attack. Um, the teacher or the teachers themselves need to be protected also.
Okay. The teachers, the children have to be protected. Okay. What
Yes.
else has to be protected? The
I'll say
organization
the
itself has
curriculum.
to be. The
Okay, the
organization
organization.
itself has to be
Okay.
protected,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Then there is different layers of protection. It's what we are thinking about is probably the easiest thing that comes to our mind is external, protection. But the protection also has to be internally.
Internal.
What if
Okay.
the teachers are not getting along with each other? What if the
Yeah.
teachers are not getting along with the volunteers? What
Yeah.
if, so where is the project management of it, the program management of it, the organizational management of it, that is also protection. So that is the job of these arms, these Kshatriyas.
Mm.
Okay. And now you need money to run this. You need the resources to run this.
Mm.
So what resources must be generated and sustained? Okay. So who was it who was going to talk to us about, I think it was Shriman, it was
No,
either
it was
Rupanuga Prabhu?
Rupanuga.
Yes,
Rupanuga, yeah.
Rupanuga Prabhu. Can you imagine, Rupanuga Prabhu, what resources must be generated and sustained for this children's community program?
Is Rupanuga Prabhu there?
Okay. So now
Silent.
we'll do it ourselves then.
Okay.
So the stomach is represented by these vaishyas. And these vaishyas, what are they doing? They're looking at the resource needs, the resource needs of the Kshatriyas, resource needs of the Brahmanas, and so on. And they're figuring out how do we, manage these resources. So for this children's community program, you need resources across the board. You need resources for the students. You need resources for the teachers. You need resources for the institution itself. Somebody has to pay the bill. Somebody has to, you know, think about the expansion of this community program. And so when you are naturally thinking about all of those things, it comes under the purview of the stomach. Okay. And then finally, the legs. Well, if everybody's simply thinking about these things, who are the people who are actually going to be doing the work? All the different volunteers, all the different people who are employed to carry out the execution of all these plans which are constructed by the heart, the arms, and the stomach. So without that, you got nothing. This children's program is not going anywhere excepting on a piece of paper. So just by the small example of this children's community program, you can see how Varnashram is going to play a role in the successful implementation of a social structure. Without that, you got nothing. That's one part of the equation. The other part of the equation, you can see that how it is anyways going to be is already dovetailed. The teachers who are interested in teachings, who have the acumen, who have that thing in their DNA, they will gravitate naturally towards teaching. The administrators who are like, oh, I can understand the politics, I can, I have a loud voice or a large trick and I know how to use them. I can understand when to do carrots and when to do sticks. I can, think about how to get different departments to cooperate with each other, to align everybody to a common vision. They will naturally gravitate at the administrators of this program. They are your Kshatriyas. They have that mentality. The people who are like, hey, I can't teach. I really don't know how best to teach, or I'm really not good at it, but I can know how to make 2 + 2 = 5. Okay? So get that extra profit out there. I can know where to get the money, how to move resources around, how to become efficient from a usage of resources and so on. So that's your stomach. That's your Vaishyas right there. And the others are like, guys, don't give me much responsibility. Just tell me what you do and get out of my way. I'll get it done. I'm very good at electrical work. I'm really good at plumbing. I'm really good at carpentry. I'm really good at whatever. So they are your legs. They are your Shudras. So when one function tried to do everything, what would fail? Everything would fail. And what would work if the functions listen to one another? Everything would work. And so we see that if the pendulum swings one way, everything is perfect. This pendulum swings the other way, everything is imperfect. Unfortunately, we live in a society where the pendulum is sometimes, or most of the times, it's somewhere in the middle and doing these small swings. Sometimes the things which are more imperfect than perfect, sometimes things are more perfect than imperfect, but never completely perfect. So that is where we have to change our mindset. We have to see how we can get to that path. Okay. So we'll go to the next one. All right. So now that we have looked at a small example, let's go into the definitions of Varna and Ashram. Very simple. We have gone through this many, many times. Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Ashrams, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. Okay. So textbook definitions: Brahmana representing knowledge, worship, counsel; Kshatriyas, different types of leadership. They met out the justice whenever required, and they provide the protection. Vaishyas, they are looking at business on all sides. They are the ones who are the keepers of resources. They are the ones who are the providers of the resources. Okay. And the Shudras, who are providing different kinds of skills to execute towards the vision that is crafted by the rest of the society. And then you have the ashram part of the varnashram, which is the formation stage, the foundational stage, which is the brahmacharya stage. You form your fundamentals and you live a life of discipline. Okay. And then you have grihastha, where this is a very, very responsible part of the household, and there is enormous amount of generosity. So they are the ones who are supporting pretty much the other ashramas, because they are the ones who are earning, who are generating income, and so on. So when I hear in different segments of society that Prabhu, I don't want to enter grihastha. My dear friend, you're thinking as if you're, being very renounced, but you're doing a very big disservice to the social structure. Okay. So take on this responsibility for who? For Haritoshanam. Vanaprastha, after a certain point of time, okay, I did whatever I was supposed to do. I did whatever I could. So now let me get into a of detachment. Thank you. Okay. And finally, you come to that final stage, which is the stage of renunciation. And so that renunciation can happen, not necessarily, this is not a question of age, but, and so on. So, okay. All right, so that is sannyasa. Okay. Now, when you observe this grid, my friends, what do you see? You see that there is both a functional disposition. The functional disposition, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And there is also a life stage discipline, Brahmana, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. And so neither axis, my dear Sahadev Prabhu, let me ask you a very, very fundamental, easy question. Is the soul Varna identified as the Varna? Chude Varna? Is the soul, is the soul's identity somehow or the other tied to Varna?
No.
Is the soul's identity somehow or the other tied to ashrama?
No.
So now we have said that, oh, this is so important, this is so important, society will fail, it will break down, this will happen, Haritoshna will not happen. But look at this, we just said neither axis, Varna or ashrama, is an eternal identity of the soul. The soul has got nothing to do with that. So why is that this Varna and ashram then? So both of these, my dear friends, are arrangements for purification and service. That's the whole point of it. They are just arrangements for purification and service. Okay? So now, let's go deeper now into, into Bhagavad Gita. Shri Krishna is already saying in Bhagavad Gita that Chaturvarna Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vivagasa. Everybody who has spent even like 6 months in ISKCON will be able to recite this shloka, right? Okay. So there is 2 things he's mentioned. What? Guna and karma. The guna is character, disposition, values, discernment, steadiness, as you can see on the screen. Karma is what is this person's competence like? What are they attracted to doing? Their observed work, their responsibility, their contribution. Okay. All right. So now underline, so the labels that look at the labels, guna and karma, they should never precede formation and observed service. So for example, the labels of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, the labels of Brahmacharya, and so on and so forth, these labels should never precede formation and observed service. What this means is you cannot just say that, oh, this person, Sadev Prabhu, is a Brahmana, so his son or his daughter is also naturally going to become a Brahmana. No, 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 no. That label of Brahmana should not precede the formation. What is the formation? The character, disposition, values, discernment, steadiness, or the observed service, observed work, competence, responsibility, contribution. Okay. So if you look at this, sorry for this bad formatting. So if the symptoms of the Varna appear in somebody, right, through their character, their intrinsic nature, right, then that is ethical and evidentiary, not the hereditary entitlement of it. We all understand. This is a simple point that we are just underscoring. Okay. So I don't know who did the squiggly thing over here. If there's a way to get rid of this thing, that'll be good. Okay. All right. So the process, therefore, is we train, observe, authorize, and review. So we won't get into that. All right. So let's continue on this journey of Varnashram. So let's start now again with these 4 Varnas, right? So every function that is done in human society is necessary, every function. And when we disconnect, when that function that we are doing is disconnected from the prescribed duties, so prescribed duties means a Brahmana is supposed to do A, B, C, D. Kshatriya is supposed to do another A1, B1, C1, D1, and so on. Vaishya is supposed to do A2, B2, C2, D2. And Shudras are supposed to do A3, B3, C3, D3. So when these functions, these prescribed duties are not those A's, A1s or B1s, C1s, whatever, they are not connected to dharma, then that function becomes dangerous. It's as simple as that. It answers an important question. Am I really a Brahmana? Hello? It's very easy to answer. Are you acting like one? It's not very difficult to answer this question. So many people come to me and say, Prabhu, what's my, what am I? Am I Kshatriya? Am I Vaishya? Look at what you're doing. What are you interested in? What's your proclivity? Are you doing whatever is your proclivity? Oh, then you're acting. Then you're connected with dharma. Are you acting in some way, but your proclivity is another way? Then you're not. You're disconnected from dharma. So now your function becomes dangerous. So what is the sacred contribution for Brahmanas? Truth, learning, worship, counsel. Are you doing these things? Oh, then you have a Brahmanical disposition. You are contributing like that. What does a Brahmana need in order to be able to do these things? They need protection. They need support. And we put over here simple support because that's what Prabhupada mentions in many of his purports. He's not looking to get like really wealthy or opulent. No, no, no. He wants to enough for body and soul together to raise a family simply. Okay, so there's some internal cleansing that has already happened in his heart. If that internal cleansing has not happened, then he doesn't have the disposition to be a Brahmana. So you need both the disposition and the occupation. Okay. But without this reciprocal need, he'll not be able to do it. He'll not be able to contribute sacred. This is a problem. This is the reason, one of the primary reasons why Varnashrama has broken down in modern society. Nobody wants to contribute for the Brahmanas' upliftment. Nobody wants to give them a single penny. It's amazing. I sometimes do yagyas here and there, and even or some classes here and there. Nobody's willing to give any donation. Everybody wants everything for free. How are the Brahmanas supposed to live? So then what do? They have to take up some occupation. So when they take up some occupation now, isn't that the exact opposite of what they should be doing? Then they are disconnected from dharma. Okay. And so then the internal cleanliness that needs to happen for the Brahmanas to work properly is that last column which you see, the shadow to purify. They have to cleanse pride, abstraction, dependency. Oh, I'll be satisfied with what I get, right? Oh, maybe I'm not there yet. Okay, then please, don't jump into a Brahmana thing, right? Now, Kshatriya, same thing. What is the sacred contribution? Courage, justice, governance, protection. Okay, what do they need? They need to be surrounded by people who are wise, who are able to, who has their ear, right? And who he trusts and who he will listen to. He needs that principal guidance, counsel. Okay, but what do they have to control? What do they have to purify? The urge to control, anger, the power without conscience. These are things that they have to purify. Then you have Vaishyas, the food, cows, enterprise, stewardship, how to run a business, how to, set up an enterprise, employ people, give them the income that they need to sustain their lives, right? So what do they need? They need fair policy. They need these things from the Kshatriyas. Hey, you know what? I'll set up that business, but you cannot be just putting me in such an unfair position that in order for me to sustain my business and sustain myself, I will also have to be unfair. Okay? And they have to be given there has to be some moral limits that, they are also not like constantly cheated from other members of the society. But what do they have to purify? The hoarding part, right? The commodification aspect of it. These are very prevalent in our societies, modern day societies. Then, of course, extraction, right? How to, how to, you take members and you exploit them. That's extraction. Okay, that's their shadow they have to purify. Shudras, their contribution is the service, the doctors, the engineers. It's not just the plumbers and the carpenters, no. Every facet of the society who's a subject matter expert in any kind of a thing and drawing a salary, that's a Shudra right there. Some of the wealthiest people in our society are Shudras. Craft, service, implementation, reliability, they are Shudras. What do they need? They need people to treat them with respect, with dignity. They need opportunities to increase their skill sets, to enhance their skill sets. They need training. They need fair care, okay, which will come from the Kshatriyas. But what is it that shadows that have to purify? The exploitation, okay? Like, hey, no, you have to work for, I know in the job description it says 8 hours, but you actually have to work for 12 hours every day. Oh, this tax, that tax, this thing, So that's exploitation. Okay. Oh, your job description says X, but you actually have to do X plus Y. We don't really mention the plus Y. You cannot take time off whenever you want to. Those are exploitations. And the loss of agency. So you cannot think. You do exactly what I tell you to do and don't ask any questions. Loss of agency. This is like that thing, right? the shadows to purify. So they also suffer from these. It goes both ways. They have a tendency to exploit and have lost because they work with other Shudras, and then they also suffer from it. This is a unique thing to Shudras. So if you look at this grid is so interesting because it tells us, it moves our mind from labels that, oh, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and it brings us into a system integration view, into, oh, this, I'm looking at this machine from 60,000 feet, and so I'm able to see the actual working of this machine. And I see that this is now coordinated service. I'm no longer ranking people based on Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Okay? Why? Because I'm a Vaishnava. And we identify these, our identification of ourselves, we identify ourselves as we can put on whatever hat we want to in order to make sure that this society functions the way it is supposed to. We transcend material designation, but on ourselves as well as our vision of others, right? Or we don't label people, but we know how to utilize these labels. Very, very important. Okay? So that was your varnas. So now you look at the same thing with brahmacharya. With ashramas.
Ashram.
So brahmacharya ashram, my foundational thing. How do I control my senses? Not controlling as in like, just not allowing them to flourish, but controlling meaning how do I govern them? How do I engage them in the right quantity at the right place at the right time? How do I receive knowledge? Okay. Because I'm a product of avidya, ignorance. How do I receive knowledge? Grihastha, how do I build a household? Support all the ashramas. I have to now go from my compartmentalized vision to a grid vision. Oh, this person also needs, that person also needs this thing. I have to look up the scale at my parents, the previous generation, whatever the older generations. I have to look at the next ones, my children, other children. I have to look at other social concerns, things. I have to look at the projects of my community. I have to look at so many different elements and balance this. I have so many balls in the air. I have to support all ashramas. It's incredibly difficult ashrama. Grasta, Vanaprastha. Oh, I have come to a point where I have done my duties. What is the succession plan? I can't just leave and just wash my hands off of everything because then that will create disturbance. But how do I transfer the responsibility? How do I then intrinsically start developing detachment? Okay. And then sannyasa. How do I engage my mind, body, and senses, my entire being, my very existence from that point forward to the service of the Lord? It's a matter of incredible amount of sacrifice that I have to do. And I will no longer depend on the grihasthas. I will no longer depend on vanaprastha. I no longer depend on brahmacharya. I will only depend on Krishna. Which should be our mentality anyways, but especially in this ashrama. And the dependency is not for sustenance. The dependency is also for guidance. Oh, whatever Krishna is doing is good. Wherever he's taking me is fine. Whatever he's not giving is for my purification. Whatever he's giving is for the utilization of his service. That is sannyasa. Okay. So what is each ashram training us to give up? And what is it training us to give? That is the question we have to ask ourselves. Right? So what is brahmacharya training to give up, training us to give up? Right? Oh, uncontrolled senses, unbridled senses, right? Is give that up. The intense, slavery towards an anxiety towards trying to fulfill this. I mean, this is never like ending ambition. So you have ambition. That's what is training us to give up. And what is it training us to give? to give that knowledge that we will receive, right? To give the direction that we will get in our life, to live our life to the fullest extent. Same thing. So you can ask these questions yourself for Grihastha. What's it training us to give, and what is it training us to give up? So the next thing, so I want you to just for 1 minute, just unmute and please just repeat this. The perfection of my duty
The perfection of my duty
is
is
to please Lord Hari.
to please Lord Hare.
That's it, my dear friends. That's it. Because if you now look at this, these four varnas, what are they doing? You're getting knowledge from, you're assuming power, somebody is well, somebody is skilled. But where, how is that coming together to this Haritoshanam, to please Lord Hari? Knowledge is becoming humility. Power becomes protection. Wealth is stewardship. Skill, dependable seva. So together then, we don't have to be all four. But when we look at that society then is naturally gravitating towards Haritoshanam. This kind of society is really the way, if it is constructed properly, if it is lived properly, it comes under the purview of Devi Varnashram, where the Lord is at the center of everything. Okay. So one thing though, still keep in mind, we have already established that social order like this, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, right, is different from bhakti. It has got actually nothing to do with bhakti. So Varnashrama can support purification, but bhakti is the direct spiritual principle. These are two different things. Varnashram is a limb of karma yoga. Bhakti is bhakti yoga. Okay. So if you look at this these are, not isolated quotations like divine design, qualification. No. They're not isolated. It seems like they're isolated. But actually, there's a synthesis over here. So Srila Prabhupada very, very strongly in many different places, he rejected the birth-only caste, right? I mean, so many times he said, oh, these are the caste Goswamis. These are the caste Brahmanas. These are the Smarta, so many things, right? So Srila Prabhupada also insisted that social functions require real qualification, training, and duty. So, of course, there's divine design. Lord Krishna himself is saying that I created this Varnashram for systematic spiritual development. The qualification determined by guna and karma, not by inheritance. The cooperation, if there's cooperation, then the functions will flourish through mutual dependency, right? Not competition. So through all of this, we move forward in our spiritual journey. We get to a position of transcendence where the Krishna consciousness can elevate anyone beyond these designations, Brahmana, Kshatriya, and so on. But Srila Prabhupada is also saying, no, you can't just identify somebody like, oh, you're a Brahmana, you're a Kshatriya, and then not train them. It requires active training. So he envisioned that institutions would be created that form the qualified Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. It's like a talent search person who goes from school to school looking for like who is the most talented basketball player. But once they have identified that who can play basketball very well and so on, has a natural inclination, natural power, natural strength, natural abilities, skills, then the training starts. It doesn't end over there. Hey, you come form our team, now we will train you. We'll train you to be this professional, to this perfect basketball player. So the training starts after you identify which varna you're really in. And then this training cannot be, polluted by discrimination. So it should be open without this discrimination, with examination and demonstrated qualification. You can be just like, okay, it's become like a fad in our society. Like, oh, you've been in this thing, you've just had first initiation, now you are already ready for Brahmanis. Are Baba, do you have Brahminical qualification? And once you get somehow or the other, even if you get it, how are you being trained as a Brahmana? Right? Are you being trained? How many of us have Brahman Diksha and are not yet trained? Not even a little bit. We don't even know what the training means. No, no, you just read scripture, you'll become. No, it's not like that. So you have to have some demonstrated qualification. Okay. All right. So this was, I thought we would do this. I don't know whether we will have time to do this guided session, but we will take a little bit of time into this. So recall a real decision where responsibility requires courage. A real decision. You have to carry out a real responsibility. And you need courage to do it. Just think about it. Okay, I'll just pause for 10-15 seconds while you really think about it. If you do this properly, you'll be able to go deeper into this. Okay, so now ask yourself, I've said over here, place a hand over the heart, but that's metaphoric. Go deep within your heart. Say, okay, I had to make this real decision. And this was a decision of great responsibility. And it required a lot of courage. So in order for me to make this decision, what truth, value, or instruction must guide me? What instruction must guide me? How do I do this? When do I do this? Where do I do this? To who? What are the implications of this decision? Implications of not making the decisions? Implications of making a half-baked decision? Implications of making a decision but not following through with it? All these are instructions that must guide us. What truth? What was the context? Where are the people who are going to be influenced by the decision? Where do they lie? What are their qualifications? What is the acceptance level of that thing? What's my relationship with them? The values of myself that I carry, the organization on who is going to be impacted by this decision, right? The basic purposes and foundational principles which are, within my life and the life of others, which is going to be impacted by this decision. Okay. And so now, let's take our hands from our heart and we ask ourselves, what person, principle, or resources must I protect? Okay. So I'm going to make a decision. It's a decision of real responsibility. It requires courage. But what persons should I protect? Up and down. The persons who have nobody else to turn to. The person who are dependent on somebody else for a livelihood, maybe. The person whose existence might be changed in some way, might be impacted, affected in some way because of this decision. Same thing, principle. Oh, if I do this, then somehow or the other, I will violate the principle of truthfulness. I'll violate the principle of equality, of being equanimous within myself. I'll somehow lean the other way. So those I have to protect. What resources must I protect? So think like that. Okay? And then you pray like, oh, my dear Lord, may my strength serve your purpose, not my prestige. Okay? And I wanted to do this in pairs. So share only the action, not confidential details. What action would you take? So if you look at this exercise, and this I'll share this with you, you take your time, take half an hour, take 20 minutes, whatever it is, do this exercise, either by yourself or with somebody in your life later on. And then it will become clear what role the heart is playing, what role the arms are playing. what role the Kshatriyas are playing, what role the Brahmanas are playing. Okay? So, and then this part which you see at the end, this will become such a powerful statement. This insight that this Kshatriyas, this protection, it begins only after purified intention. Otherwise, it really carries with it the label of exploitation. That's it. Okay? So this arms part, number 3, will come into the picture only after number 2 has happened. So that's our decision metric right there. My dear friends, what I'm also trying to say is Varnashram is not just an element in the society. This is a very important concept for us to understand. Varnashram also exists within ourselves. So now we have come across almost like a parallel. Think about the universal form, where the Lord is saying Varnashram is coming from my arms. The Varnas are coming from my body. The head, the arms, the stomach, the legs. And we see this even embodied in our decision making. Actually, it's not just that I am a Brahman or a Kshatriya. It's actually that I am also embodying all the functions of these Brahmanas in important decision making. I have to apply a decision with wisdom. So at some point of time, it is, yes, at the very beginning, the Brahmanas are coming into play. Oh, I have to do the action. While I'm doing the action, I have to look at all these protections, the person, the principle, the resources that I must protect. So I also have to act like a Kshatriya. Oh, I have to have the strength to gather the resources and, actually execute on this. I have to work like a Vaishya. Oh, and then I actually have to do that. Whatever it is that I've just decided, I have to execute. Oh, also I have to act like a Shudra. So we also embody Varnas, the functions of Varna within ourselves. Okay? All right, so we'll end with this last couple of things very quickly. This is a case study. I chose this case study very specifically because this is very, very common in our society. A donor will come and say, okay, I'll give you X dollars or whatever the amount of money is. Very influential donor. Okay, but you will do exactly what I will tell you to do, or I will decide on this, this, and this. So they request some influence over curriculum and leadership appointments. I want this position. I want that role. I want you to name the school after me. I want to, whatever it is. So what did we just do before this slide? We said that, oh, we can also embody within ourselves the functions of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So we can look at this problem, this dilemma that we have in front of us through those lenses. Let's look at it from the Brahmana lenses. What principle and spiritual purposes are at stake with this request that has come from this donor? What do I have to give up? What do I have to, I will reduce my value equation if I do X, Y, and Z. Okay? Those are things which are at stake. The Kshatriya will have to look like this. What are the boundaries? What are the governance or accountability aspects which protects this mission? My dear friend, Mr. Donor, these are the boundaries. I'm sorry, we can agree to this, but not to that. You can ask for this, but not that. This is how we will set up. This is how we will absorb your donation. This is how we will utilize it, not necessarily how you want us to always utilize everything. The governance aspect, the accountability aspect of it, the boundaries. That's the Kshatriya lenses. The Vaishya lenses. Oh, hold on. What if this guy money doesn't come in? Let's look for alternative resources. What sustainable alternatives and resource implications exist? What if we have to say no to this guy? Oh, my dear Mr. Kshatriya leader, we can only do then this and not that. And that's okay. But we will also have to look at, other ways, means and ways to build up a better donor, base. And the Shudra lenses. What operational impact will the decision create? Right? If we have this money, we can do this, this, and this. If we don't, then we'll do this, this, and this. And if we get it in a staggered way, we'll do that, that, and that. In this time frame, at this thing, this will be the quality, that will be the effort, this will be the duration, and so on and so forth. This will be the phased approach. So the Shudra lenses, very important, very complicated lenses. Okay. So our output as our counsel, if we were to do this together, would be one decision, one reason, one safeguard, one review. That, oh, this is like almost as if we are creating this deck for our organization. Hey guys, so Brahmana speaks up and says, look, guys, these are the values which are at stake. We can agree to this, we cannot agree to that. Kshatriya will come and say, okay, in order to protect these values, we can put these guardrails in thing, but that's our red line. This is our line on the sand or a stake on the ground, and we cannot. And the Vaishya says, okay, by the way, while you guys are doing that, I looked at these are our alternatives. These are option A, option B, option C. This is my recommended option. And Shudra will say, okay, given all of these things, this is what is achievable, this is what is not. Look at how this society comes together and thinks. And what if this society is in our head? What if we were to put on these different lenses in the decisions that we have to make, the complicated decisions of our Grihastha ashram that we have to make? Okay. All right. And I think this is probably the last one or two things. Okay. So what do we have to do? Look at the, again, Brahminical culture. This is, I think this is almost like a summary slide. Spiritual literacy, ethical formation, independent counsel, teacher development, and then Kshatriya would be safeguarding, governance, how to manage conflicts. The authority has to be transparent, why a decision was made, how it was made, what are the inputs, and so on. The Vaishya stewardship would be all of those things that you read in front of you. Shudra dignity would be, different kind of skill developments, a complete fair treatment, clarity of role, appreciation, support. So these are all comes over there. And then you have ashram support. Ashram support is which applies to all the ashramas. So mentoring, household care, elder engagement, and succession planning based on these 4 ashramas, right? Good brahmacharya right up to sannyasa. And all of these into haritoshanam. Okay. So directed to Harit. So these metrics, so these are principles now you see, which are, they're not stereotypes like I've written over there. So they are all directed for the pleasure of the Lord, Haritoshanam. These mission metrics, they include sadhana, character, service quality, spiritual nourishment. That's it. Finally, 4 common distortions that you must reject, that we have to reject. Number 1, Varna is fixed by birth. No, it's not. Shastra tells us that the symptoms, proclivities, the qualities, the work, Varna is a guna and karma. And then you have higher function means a higher soul. That's total rubbish. The spiritual word, the spiritual, qualification of a soul rests in bhakti. So these functions of Brahmana and Kshatriya, whatever, they're just reciprocal services. I'll keep this in mind always. So I'm going to challenge you to think differently a little bit. Can you, just by this one thing, realize that you can be a very elevated, very spiritually elevated person, even if you're not a sannyasi? Can you understand this? Then you have to ask yourself, why is it that whenever an spiritually elevated, advanced, sannyasi comes to your center, you go all out. But whenever a spiritually elevated, a wonderful grihastha comes to your ashram, do you go the similar way all out? If you don't, then somehow or the other, the understanding is lacking. Or our vision is limited to is somewhere we have the, we're just looking at color of dress. We are thinking that somebody is wearing a certain color and therefore they are of much more elevated status. This is exactly what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was trying to avoid. And he realized that this is a problem with the society in large. People were disrespecting him because he was not wearing a certain color. Right? And so he said, okay, then let me take sannyas. So maybe then people will start respecting me, at least as a sannyasi. They'll reduce the offenses that they are committing at my feet. Just think about, meditate on that. Okay? Then another myth, leadership may operate without counsel. No. Can it operate as just as a possibility? Of course. Anything can happen, right? You can cut off your own hands. That's okay, because you don't need the Kshatriyas. Leadership may operate without counsel, yeah. But the arms without heart becomes dangerous. And the counsel without courage becomes ineffective. You form a society, you form like the temple leadership council, and you put 5 brahmanas out there. Why? Because they're saying, oh, they're such saintly people. Arey bhai, they won't have the courage to make any decision. They will go round and round and round, debating and discussing and all that. Put one Kshatriya, then damn it, we are going to do it this way. I've listened to all your counsel. This is my final. Things will start getting moving. And the opposite thing will happen if you only put a bunch of Kshatriyas out there. Oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. They'll just argue, and then there'll be so much of quarrel and all that. And even if they don't, their decisions will eventually become adharmic. After a time, they will become degraded. This is what happened to the Kauravas. They didn't listen to counsel of Vidura or Bhishma. They just didn't do it. Okay. Then the last label over here is a label creates a myth is the last myth over here is a label creates qualification. What are the labels? Brahmana, Kshatriya, and so on, right? It creates qualification. No. Just it doesn't create qualification. You have to observe the conduct. You have to review it. Okay. And so the formation of it, the guna karma, you have to give it time. You could, like Prabhupada was saying, you have to train people. Okay. And so then you have to review, like, is this training effective or not? Or am I training I don't know, a cow to become a horse or a horse to become a cow? So no, you can't, right? But you can train a horse to become a better horse, right? You can train a cow to become a better cow. Okay. So then that review must happen before you give these people responsibilities. Okay. And I will again leave this to yourself, as this is the last one, I think, which is if possible, ever do this application canvas. So for at least for important decisions, complicated decisions, ask yourselves this: which spiritual principle or teaching must guide us as we go through this decision? It could be like, let's do it for decisions which are life-changing. You don't have to do it for like, what are we going to have for dinner? Maybe like it will come naturally, right? Oh, what must we have for dinner? Oh, certainly not chicken. And that's a spiritual principle or teaching that much guide us. So we won't eat non-vegetarian food because we can't offer it to Krishna. Okay, that's fine. But these are bigger ones, like, should I take up this job? Should I move from place A to place B? Should I put my children in this school or that school? Should I go leave my city to take care of my elder parents, or should I remain in this city where my services are and do that? Very important questions, my friends. These are things which impact us greatly, deeply in our lives. What spiritual principle or teaching must guide us as we make those decisions? What must be protected through policy, leadership of courage? If I do this, I will lose. This will be compromised. That will suffer, and so on. What people, skills, foods, or funds must be stewarded? If I have to move to take care of my parents, I need X amount of money. not just for my parents, but for my own family. I might have to take a pay cut and do this other job, but then my lifestyle will change. How do I augment the income? So many things you have to think of before you make the decision. What dependable execution is required? Oh, I have to sell this house. I have to go to sell that car, or I can move from here to there. I need a separate place, or I will share the space. That will help with the funds. And so many things simply resource related that you have to think of. Okay. And then how will we prevent domination, exclusion, or role confusion? Who should I counsel with? Who will be close to my heart and I will share like this and take their counsel, their guidance, their inputs before I make this decision? Okay. And then finally, why am I doing this? If I do this, then I will be more peaceful. If I'm more peaceful, I will be able to execute my bhakti better. If I'm able to execute my bhakti better, it will be pleasing to the Lord. How will this concretely increase? Hari Toshana. Okay, so this is our summary slide. Society becomes healthy when spiritual and intelligence and protective authority, they cooperate. Varna is based on guna and karma. I think everybody can recite this in their sleep, not by birth alone. Then the ashrama, right? Brahmacharya right up to sannyasa. It provides a progressive curriculum of discipline, responsibility, detachment, and finally surrender. Okay. And then no function, Varna or ashram, is spiritually superior, right? We see that all the time. We see Ambarish Maharaj, who was a king and not a sannyasi, who was spiritually more powerful than the person who cursed him, Durvasa Muni, and so on. And there are many, many such examples as well. Okay, each becomes sacred through service to the whole. And the measure of success, this is the one which I've highlighted over here, is Haritoshnam, whether the Lord Hari is pleased. And Srila Prabhupada was very practical. He didn't just throw these words at us and say, oh, no, you see, this is theoretical. No, my friends. He was very practical. He says, like, these calls for practical training. So many times he said, oh, now these boys are going to be trained as Brahmanas. These people are going to be trained as such, and so on. Qualification, open access, not just labels. And our application, we saw those couple of case studies. It requires all of these things, even within our mind: governance, dignity, accountability, safeguarding, and Haritoshanam, devotional center. So I know today's topic was a little bit technical and theoretical, little dry, so please forgive me for that. But I thought that this is also an important topic, and it would be nice to look at Varnashram from multiple angles. And with that, I will end, and I will invite you to share your thoughts and your comments, and for my purification. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Oh, Krishna, thank you so much. You ended by saying you believe this sharing is dry. If even it were dry, we need dry wood to make fire. Wet wood don't make a good fire. And this, excuse me to say, so-called dry wood is actually burning in our hearts and in our minds. And a couple of devotees have inboxed me personally. If possible, they get a copy of these wonderful slides.
Yeah,
And
I'm as we speak, I'm going to send it to you, send you the PDF right now.
sure, yeah. And in fact, Prabhuji, you did this within like 70 minutes, 80 minutes. I think we need to go deeper into this for maybe a whole 3 hours minimum because it entails a lot. And I am here thinking, like, maybe I went and paid somebody for this workshop. And here we are we're getting it free of charge. And like you said, Vaishyas do not know how to give any longer. But it's important that Vaishyas learn. See, these are some of the basic things that most of us do not know. But I would like to end here and invite the witness, please. If anyone has a question, comment, reflections, realizations to today's amazing Krishna Katha, please do not hesitate. Just unmute yourself and go ahead and then share your heart. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Anyone with something to ask or to add or to share? Prabhuji, I have one first question here. The first question is, oh, sorry, we'll go to Srimad Acharya Prabhu. Srimad Prabhu, please leave me on mute.
So you go first. I'll soon be in the office. Just go first.
Okay. Okay. All right.
And so while we're waiting for that question, so Prabhus, I have just posted the deck in the Zoom chat. Plus, I have sent the deck to Sadev Prabhu to yourself. So however you want to utilize it, so be it.
Yeah. We'll do that. Okay.
Please go ahead with your questions.
So my question is talking about Varna and Ashram, that the Brahmins, they serve, they do not get paid, but especially the Vaishyas, they are part of their requirements as Vaishyas is to take care of the other three Varnas. Now, Dronacharya was understood to be a Brahmin. He was born a Brahmin. And I don't know whether he was born a Brahmin or he was a Brahmin because of all the qualifications that makes one a Brahmin, or simply because he was born to a Brahmin, Vedavyas. But when Drona came to Hastinapur, he could not find anywhere that he could teach. So he ended up being a Kshatriya because everybody has to live. And so I just want to know whether Drona was a Brahmin one. Was it like a caste Brahmin or by qualification? And two, how, if he was by qualification as a Brahmin, stepped down to Kshatriya?
I'm just writing it down, what you're saying. So can you repeat those two questions? I'm just writing it down.
Okay, I'm wondering whether Dronacharya was Brahmin by birth, which is a caste, or by qualification. And if he was a Brahmin by qualification, why did he step down to become a Kshatriya when he traveled to Hastinapur? And what can we learn from that?
Yeah, so the first thing, well, definitely he was a Brahmana. Well, I mean, by birth was also a significant contribution at that point of time in those days of the society. He was the son of Bharadwaj Muni. So he was born a Brahmana, okay? Yeah. And but your point is still valid, that look, he adopted, so although he taught, both and trained both the Pandavas and the Vaishyas, Pandavas and the Kauravas. The occupation of teaching certainly is a Brahminical occupation. But more than that, I think there was another part of his life where his his life essentially was centered on weapons, and then warfare. But also remember, Brahmanas are not just what they are teaching, but remember that slide where I was telling you about the darkness, the things that the conflicts that they have to resolve in their heart.
Yeah.
And one of the things he could never really fully resolve was this revenge mentality against Drupada, and also military leadership. So there was a mixture already in his heart that, oh, I'm qualified to play the role of a Kshatriya. So when Bhishma fell, then Drona became the commander of the Kauravas. So just if we look at the lenses of what should Drona had done, right? Well, frankly speaking, first of all, if he's really a Brahmana and he has that complete Brahmanical mentality, then he should know what is dharma and adharma. He really should not have even sided with the Kauravas to begin with. Okay, so that's the first fault which we see in his personality. The second thing that we see in his personality was that, well, he had some Kshatriya, ambitions. So when then Bhishma fell, Drona was like, okay, I will now become this person because I am, after all, the one who trained everybody. I have enormous knowledge of all weaponry. So naturally, I'm the most qualified person over here to become this Kshatriya, to become this commander. Okay. So many commentators, they have described him as a Brahmana who lived and acted like a Kshatriya. Okay. And if you see, even his son is similarly portrayed, and the only reason I mention this is when Ashwatthama is finally captured after, that failed attempt to kill Parikshit in the womb, Ashwatthama is captured. And then he's cursed. One of the arguments given by Draupadi for not killing Ashwatthama was that, hey, he is a Brahmana. And also there are other arguments that came in that, well, he is a Brahmana, then, I don't want his mother to be, as sad as go to the
I'm going
sadness that I'm
through.
going through,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. So other things also, he's the son of your guru. So all of those. But one of the arguments that was given by her was that he's a Brahmana. So naturally we see that there is some inclination, some indication, even within the minds of these amazing personalities like Draupadi, others also, the Pandavas were there, who did not argue against that principle, that there is a birth connection over there also to Brahmanas. They kind of they were okay with that. This this alloyed definition of Brahmanas and Kshatriyas has persisted in our society for quite some time. That there is both a consideration of birth and then there is a consideration of guna and karma. Krishna, of course, Srila Prabhupada made it very, very clear to us through his commentaries on Bhagavad Gita that we don't really pay much attention to the birth at all. In fact, we don't pay any attention to the birth. If there is somebody who is a Brahmana's son, but is not acting like a Brahmana, then they're not called Brahmanas, but they're called Brahmana Bandhu, friends of Brahmana. Okay. But naturally, we still are a little bit affectionate towards them. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's natural because we have this saying like, if I love you, automatically I will love your pets. Your pets may not be behaving well, but simply the fact that I love you, automatically I love your pets. So what to speak of loving, having your teacher and your teacher's son, it's automatic that you're going to have some respect and affection. Yeah.
And we see other examples of this also from Srimad Bhagavatam. If you look at the example of Ajamil, Ajamil was a Brahmana, he was well situated, and then he fell down, right? And he did a lot of different kinds of things. And so it is naturally safe to say that he was no longer behaving like a Brahmana, right? He had completely deviated from that path. And yet, once he utters the name of Narayan, even without intending to mean the Lord Narayan, the chance is given to him, which he grabs, and because of his previous samskaras as a Brahmana, he's able to then progress into this in a transcendentally, spiritually vibrant practice. He was able to quickly course correct and get into that practice, which means that his proclivities as a Brahmana were not completely destroyed, even though he deviated. So that is also an important point to remember. Okay.
Very much. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Sure.
much. Wow. Anyone else with something to ask? Srimara Prabhu, are you ready? Are you available?
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Srivas Pandit Prabhu.
Yes.
All glories to Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. This is a very wonderful workshop, wonderful delivery. Unfortunately, half of the time I was driving, so I was just speaking little here and there. But still, it's very fantastic. If we can get copies of it, it will help us to go over. Now,
Yeah, it's already shared. You'll get a copy. Yes, you will.
okay, thanks. Yeah, so I have two questions, but just before my two questions, a little comment on this question about Drona. I think the scripture also says that a Brahmana at worst can be a Kshatriya or a Vaishya, but should never take the service of a Shudra. The scripture says that. I cannot get the reference right now, but the scripture did say many times that a Brahmana can take on the role of a Kshatriya or the role of a Vaishya, but not of a Shudra. So in that way, in that light, we can understand the role of Dronacharya. Well, that's just my little comment on that point. Now, my questions. First question is, what is the question? The first one is, am I audible? Is it okay?
Yes, you are.
Yes, Prabhuji, we can hear you.
The first one is the purpose of an ashram, which is to please Krishna. Of course, my second question is also about that, but let me just say the first question. So, yes, that is the purpose, but I think the Lord also has another purpose, which is his compassionate nature for the living entities. We are not created, I don't know, can I say we're not created equal? We have different abilities. So there are the weak, there are the strong, there are the poor, rich, etc., etc. And many souls find themselves at disadvantage when it comes to qualities required to please the Lord, maybe to make effort towards the desired goal of life. So I think, I'm sorry using that word think, I believe it is the purpose of the Lord to create a chain work whereby the strong can pull the weak along through their own resourcefulness, activities, capabilities, and the weak that are attached to them also get benefit. So this is what I understand about Varnashram being a corporate system of salvation. So that is my first question or comment, and you may elaborate on that. The second one is still on the issue of pleasing the Lord, Aritoshana. Now, there are entities, there are beings who do not even have the inkling of pleasing the Lord. Even if you explain it to them till tomorrow, they do not have that inkling of pleasing the Lord, but they will do everything to please their master. They will die for their master. And therein, Varnashram comes in. Because of their dedication and their surrender to their master, they also get the benefit. That is also Varnashram. In fact, that is one of the main purposes of Varnashram, helping those who are incapable in many ways to get the benefit through service to their superior. And automatically, the blessing, comes down to them also. So these are my points. I don't know how you react to that. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so there are two considerations over here. So one is more dealing with the purpose. So the purpose of Varnashrama is to gradually elevate people to spiritual consciousness. So Varna and Ashrama, as we had discussed, it has got no connection to bhakti, none. But it can aid in bhakti. It can help in bhakti. So for example, one can take an argument of a different thing, not Varna and Ashram. So let us say, my dear friends, we have joined a yoga meditation facility. And we have said that, oh, let us go and do some yoga and meditation and let us join the school. And if we do that, it will teach me how to calm my mind, how to control my senses. And with my calm mind and my control senses, I will be able to do my japa better. I will get other benefits also, but I'll also be able to concentrate more on japa. The act of doing japa is a bhakti act, okay? Shravanam Kirtanam. Well, Smaranam also at a higher stage of japa. But do I need to join the meditative institute, the yoga institute, in order to actually do Smaranam or Kirtanam or, whatever it is that japa will give me? No, I don't. But because it is going to help me in doing japa, the act of meditation or joining this meditation yoga becomes something which supports bhakti. So it is therefore called as Mishra Bhakti, in this case, Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Okay, all right. And so now, same thing with Varnashrama. Varnashrama talks about prescribed duties. My dear Mr. Brahmana, these are your prescribed duties. Mr. Kshatriya, these are yours, and so on and so forth. As long if you do these prescribed duties based on your guna and your proclivities, your natural thing, then you will be peaceful. If you are peaceful, you will be able to do bhakti. One of the 64 limbs of bhakti, one of the requirements that is given, well, not really requirement, one of the limbs that is given is to have a peaceful mind. That is given by Rupa Goswami Pad in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And so if we are having a disturbed mind, most of us, we are not talking about people who are very, very spiritually advanced, but if we have disturbed mind, we cannot do bhakti. So therefore, the purpose of Varnashram Dharma is not so much as to of one person pulling another person who is of lesser. That is not the main purpose. That is a secondary purpose. Not the upalaksham, but the tathastha laksham. So the secondary purpose of it. But the main purpose is slowly, gradually elevating the entire society into a transcendental mindset. Okay, to bring them spiritually more and more closer to the Lord. I was just reading up here. This is Srila Prabhupada's. I'm going to show you. This is the purport that he has written in this very famous thing, right? Chaturvarnamaya Srishtam Gunakarma Vivagasha. So pretty much what we had referred in many places. And Srila Prabhupada in his purport, he's saying the same thing, that look, Although Brahmanas by quality are supposed to know about Brahman, the supreme absolute truth, most of them approach only the impersonal Brahman and so on. But a man who transcends, this is the part which is relevant to us. A man who transcends the limited knowledge of a Brahmana and reaches the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, becomes a person in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, a Vaishnava. So our goal is not really to be in the playground of all of these, right? It is our goal is to elevate ourselves, to come out of that playground. All of you may even recall the wonderful dialogue that goes on between Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, okay, in Madhya. I think it is Madhya 8. And in this dialogue, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu starts off these very starting question to Ramananda Rai is, what is the perfection of human life? And Ramananda Rai responds by saying, oh, the perfection of human life is that everybody is able to perform their prescribed duties with, properly, without deviation. And immediately Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejects that statement. He says, no, 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 that is external. Please go further, and so on. And so, as a starting point of our spiritual journey, sure, it would make sense. But the understanding of what bhakti really means, that bhakti actually means, or uttama bhakti actually means without jnana karma, okay? Without, so anyabilashite shunyam, jnana karma anavritam, okay? Karmadi anavritam. So going away from jnana and karma. So karma over here is varnashrama dharma. Away from this, outside of this, deeper than that, transcending that, the aspects of prescribed duties, then you really come to the level of bhakti. Okay. I hope that answers your question, but we can go deeper if you wish to.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Anyway, thank you. I agree with you that Vanashram is meant to gradually elevate people to spiritual consciousness perfectly. And I also agree with you that Vanashram, it's not the same as Bhakti perfectly. I do agree. But Vanashram is meant to organize people into a kind of society that is favorable for discharging devotional service.
100%.
A society,
100% agree.
yeah, a society.
Yeah.
So, and without having that kind of society, we will be making effort, very, very difficult effort in the environment wherever we find ourselves, where
Totally
other
agree.
system prevail. So that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
100% agree. And you bring up a very important point, because there are sections of our organization who are not in favor of Varnashram for the wrong reasons. Because for some reason they're thinking that Varnashram is going to limit their ambitions and their preoccupation. It's going to somehow label them or restrict them. But that's not the thinking. That's not the right way to look at Varnashram. You bring forward a very important point. We are conditioned beings. We have a lot of anarthas. We are living in a very complicated society, which is, constantly pounding us in different directions and pushing us to do karmas which are giving us reactions, so which are called as ugra karmas. How do you come out of that? How do you stop this cycle of karma? And in our mind, we are thinking that, oh, whatever I'm doing it for the Lord, and therefore I will not have any karmic reaction. Sometimes it is true, but many times it is not. And so that framework of Varnashram makes it more true than not. So that framework of that Varnashram allows us to actually start keeping Krishna in the center and say, oh, if you want to do this properly, if you want to live your life in the situation that you're in, where you are not really spiritually elevated yet, you are not really doing, Uttama Bhakti yet, but at least you can do properly Karma Yoga, Karma Mishra Bhakti. You can do that. And you can, by doing that, gradually you will come to the path of Uttama Bhakti. You can then eventually come to Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti properly, which will be a limb of Uttama Bhakti. Okay, so it's very, very important. I think you brought forward a very good point out there. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes. There is one Prabhuji who was trying to ask a question, I think, coming off of mute. I really like this name, 1+9 5G. I'm going to name, if I ever have another child, someone like something like that. Yes, Prabhuji, 1+9 5G. Please ask your question. Okay, or maybe you unmuted by mistake. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Anyone else with something to ask? From what you see, I sometimes say is that we have two different kinds of drops: eye drops, ear drops. No, and if I put eye drops in my ears, I might have a problem. And definitely, if I put eardrops in my eyes, big problem. Now, I recall at some point in your slides where you were showing different lenses related to the different varnas in management. If we have a Brahmana as a manager, and he is just looking at his own lenses, not looking at the other three lenses. I have seen that. I have lived through that, and I'm still living through that. That it's been chaotic. And we've said it several times, especially on this platform, that when Krishna comes and imparts knowledge, he imparts the knowledge to the Kshatriyas because they are ruling, they are protecting, like we learned from this. So we have all this information, this beautiful, we did not formally call it a workshop, but it's a workshop that you had with us today. So beautiful. We have it. But we ourselves have so much challenges in this area. So how do we actually affect the rest of the community, the rest of the society, when we ourselves are so much poor, even though we are so rich? We are poor because we are unable to unpackage and deliver amongst ourselves. Yet we want to unpackage and deliver to the society. How effective is this going to help us as individuals, as organization, as community? And how is that going to impact the bigger, larger community if we keep acting the way we're acting, that the manager is Brahmin and is only looking at the Brahminical lens?
Yeah, yeah. So this is, some of your question is really rhetorical. How effective can we be? We will not be very effective, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But the in-depth analysis over here requires courage, that and maturity. Our problem is not at the surface. It seems like we have the wrong people at the wrong place, but it's not just that. We also have a wrong understanding of Vaishnavas. That is why we have the wrong people at the wrong place. Because you see, Srila Prabhupada has very nicely, very expertly said that, hey, a Vaishnava can wear multiple hats. But what he's really also trying to say, a qualified Vaishnava can wear multiple hats. We see the example of, let's say, Jiva Goswami Pad, Srila Prabhupada himself, where when they had to wear the hats of scholars, they wore the hat of scholar. When they had to wear the hat of like somebody who had to gather resources, they did that. When they had to wear the hat of governance, they wore those hats, and they wore all of those hats very expertly. But in order for us to transcend ourselves, get to that position of skill and authority, and then be able to say we can effectively don these different hats at different times, and it requires a lot of maturity. And we should not just quickly jump into a conclusion that just because we are chanting the holy name or we are worshiping the Lord, automatically we are very highly qualified Vaishnavas. We are getting there. We are being trained. We are on the journey. Definitely, someday we will become highly qualified Vaishnavas, but we are not there yet. So as a society, I would say it is not so much as putting the wrong people in the wrong place, but it is first is deeper than that. We have to build a society of this self-reflection and humility, where we are able to understand that we are not there yet, and we have to allow ourselves to step back and recognize that, oh, I can do this, but I can't do that. Or I can do this at this level, but not at that level. So that kind of a thing. And then with that comes from that deep meditation, that humility. And that allows us to then look for help. Oh, because this is a deficiency in me or the organization as it exists today. So let me look for agencies to fill those gaps. And then you look for the right people. You go scouting. Oh, this person, I really like the way they speak. I really like the way they make the decisions and so on. So they may not have very Brahminical qualities. For example, they may not be very humble. They may not be so they might have more Kshatriya qualities. Okay. And that is not a disqualification, because he's not in this role. He's not going to be my spiritual master. He's going to be the manager of this particular thing. In that role, he or she is not going to be the teacher of my thing. No, I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for somebody who can help raise the funds. Okay. So that kind of thing. So with those lenses, that maturity, then you are able to choose the right thing. We are trying to choose whoever is second initiated or whoever has Brahminical saintly qualities as the administrators. Total disaster. Doesn't work. We have a problem. We have a similar problem, not just with varnas, but also with ashramas. If you look back at the history of our organization, you will see that some people prematurely took over sannyasa. They were not ready for it. They should have remained in Grihastha ashram. They would have been peaceful. Organization would have been peaceful, right? But instead, they went on a different role, and it became a difficult thing for them and for others. Many people had even disciples. So it became difficult for them also, right? So similarly, then some people I see who have, when Bharat Maharaj, this is not Bharat Maharaj, this is Lord Rama's brother Bharat. He came to Lord Ram, right? And he came to Lord Ram when Lord Ram is at the edge of the forest, and Lord Ram sees him coming. And he sees that he's like completely distressed. He's just crying. He can't even stand straight. He's just offering obeisances, falling on the ground, somehow the other getting up, just crawling towards him. And somehow he makes his way to the lotus feet of Lord Ram, and he catches hold of them, and Lord Ram lifts him up and he asks him this amazing question. My dear Bharat, why are you sad? Is it that you focused on dharma but neglected artha and kama? Or is it that you went into the collection of artha but neglected dharma and kama? Or is it that you went so much into kama but neglected dharma and artha? I see that in our society. We just shun these things, but later on we realize, no, we still have those desires. We've not fulfilled the dharma aspect of it. We've not fulfilled the artha aspect of it. We've not fulfilled the kama aspect of it. It creates disturbance. My dear friends, at the end of the day, it creates disturbance within ourselves. Let's forget about the society. The society is just constituting of individuals like ourselves. We clean this, we get this ready, the society will be ready. But we are so immersed in trying to become this perfect devotee that we forget how to become a good devotee. We just have to be honest, be less hypocritical, be completely humble, absolutely reflective on ourselves. What is it that I want? Where am I right now? What is it that I need at this point of time? Let me fulfill that need. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami Pad specifically calls this out. And he says that if this is your constitutional position and you're trying to do the devotional practices of somebody whose spiritual level is higher than this, it will cause your downfall. It will not help you. Okay, he specifically calls this out. Okay, when he talks about sadhana bhakti. And this is something that we have to remind ourselves constantly that, yeah, bhava prema, fine, I get that, but this is where I am right now. I still have the desire for a retirement, for this, for that. Let me do bhakti, which will automatically purify it, but also let me not repress and suppress. Let me figure out how to dovetail my desires to Krishna's services. Let me see if I can do that. Okay. All right. I hope this helps, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you so much. I don't remember who said this, but somebody was saying he doesn't care much about being perfect. What he cares much is how to sincerely and honestly follow his guru's instructions. Once he is able to do that, whether perfection comes or not, that is secondary. But I think that sinks in very well with what you're sharing, because we sometimes aim at the pinnacle without looking at the steps to get us to the pinnacle. So thank you so much for sharing this. It seems Shrimavara Acharya Prabhu has something to ask or to share. Please, you may unmute. Shrimavara Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So
Hare
I'm
Krishna.
driving again. I'm driving, so please kindly share with me my voice or my sound. Quickly, I think the earlier we realize the importance of letting the Varnashram principles guide our society, Eastern society, the better for us. I'm going to give some example of some of the problems that we're having. So we want a clean environment. We want the temple to be well organized, everything, good looking. You need a kshatriya for that. You need a kshatriya to get people to do their work and be responsible. Then maybe somebody with kshatriya quality is trying to get people to be mindful of their duty, and then somebody very Brahmanical comes in and says, "So Prabhu, you don't have to talk to them. You don't have to force people." I mean, so we are in this state of dichotomy where the qualities that we require to make things happen, we are also like militating against it by the different type of leadership. Brahmanas acting like wanting to give instruction where Kshatriya type of instruction is needed, and so on and so forth. And this is happening in almost every level. That's just an example I can think of. So unless and until Eastern society realizes the importance that it is not just the philosophy, but we have to be mindful that for the society to function well, there has to be proper division of labor and proper mindfulness of a job description. So that's just what I want to add as contribution. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
100%. 100%. Yeah, we are all aligned on that. 100%. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, dear devotees. It seems we're coming to the end of this wonderful, wonderful trip we took today. But Prabhuji, I'll have one last thing to end on, and then if you have something to share about it, something to share on it, you may. That is, we're talking about Varnashram, and I am so happy to hear you explain the purpose of Varnashram. It is to help prepare humanity to come to the platform of accepting bhakti, accepting devotional service to Krishna. Now, it's sad, like you expressed, that some people thinking that, yeah, we don't need it. Yes, it's obvious that, like the questions you were asking me, whether the soul is dependent on Varna or ashram, and the answer to both was none. Now, in our ISKCON movement, Srila Prabhupada made deity worship as one of the fundamental principles of our devotional service. However, Srila Prabhupada states in, I would like to share this, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, chapter 30, text 27. This is about the Prachitas. So, it says, Dear Lord, we conditioned souls are always covered by ignorance in the bodily conception of life. We therefore always prefer the miserable conditions of material existence. To deliver us from these miserable conditions, you've adventured yourself in this transcendental form. This is evidence of your unlimited causeless mercy upon those of us who are suffering in this way. Then what to speak of the devotees to whom you are always so favorably disposed? So in the purport, I think the third paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says, the form of the Lord as worshipped in the temples is called Achavigraha or Achavatar. Achavatar, sorry, the worshipable form, the deity incarnation. This facility is offered to neophyte devotees so that they can see the real form of the Lord face to face and offer their respectful obeisances and sacrifices in the form of archer. Now, if someone begins to say that these are for neophyte devotees, I'm not a neophyte devotee, so I don't care about the deity worship, then where are we heading? So my belief, understanding, and argument is that just as deity worship is for neophytes, but it's essential for us because most of us are actually neophytes, if we have been fortunate enough to be neophytes. Similarly, Varnashram is also very important aspect to society in general to gradually come to the level of devotional service. And if you have something to add or correct to what I just shared, please, you may do that. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, no, this is a good point which you mentioned, and I'm going to share with you with this group. This is from Srila Jiva Goswami Pa's Bhakti Sandarbha 283-84. So he's commenting on this. So we don't have to read the Sanskrit commentary, but this is the English translation. So he's saying that it is Srimad Bhagavatam's opinion that the process of deity worship is not actually necessary, just as the specific prescriptions of the Pancharatra and other scriptures do not have to be followed. The Bhagavatam enjoins that even without practicing deity worship, one can achieve the complete success of human life by any of the other devotional processes, such as simply offering oneself at the Lord's feet for his protection. So when he's saying this, he's not undermining deity worship. What he's saying is it's not necessary that you have to do it. He's just saying that you can just do kirtan. You can just do smaran. You can just do, and so he gives an example over here by offering oneself at the Lord's feet for his protection, right? So that, okay. And then he goes further. He says, nonetheless, Vaishnavas following the path of Sri Narada and his successors endeavor to establish a personal relationship with the Lord by receiving the grace of a bona fide spiritual master through initiation. And in this tradition, the devotees are obliged at the time of initiation to begin engaging in deity worship. So over here, remember, Jiva Goswami Pad, when he's talking about initiation, he's talking about what we in ISKCON talk as a second initiation, right? I mean, during Jiva Goswami Pad's time, as well as all the way up to, I would say, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time, initiation meant, so-called second initiation or Brahmana Diksha. Right. So now he's concluding, and this entire thing is actually quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita 15.108 purport by Srila Prabhupada. So you can read it over there. So this entire thing. So although deity worship is not essential, the material conditioning of most candidates for devotional service requires that they engage in this activity. What is he actually saying over here? He's saying that, look, we are not at a position where we can see the Lord everywhere. Read between the lines, my friends. We are not in a position where we can feel the presence of the Lord everywhere. We cannot. We are not in that frame of mind. We don't have that spiritual adhikar yet. So therefore, in that material conditioning of most candidates of devotional service, we require that we engage in this activity so that we have an object of the Lord in front of us, and we are purposefully following a certain vidhi, certain rules. We are worshipping the deity in a certain mind frame of awe and reverence. And so when we consider the bodily and mental conditions of these people, we find, or basically for ourselves, we find that the character of such candidates is impure and their minds are agitated. Absolutely right. I can speak for myself. My character is impure and my mind is agitated. Therefore, to rectify this material conditioning, the great sage Narada and others have at different times recommended various kinds of regulations for deity worship. So if you go back to what a Kanishta Adhikari can do, which many of us are, or at least I am, let us put it like that what can I do? Hey, I can quarrel with others. No, it's not going to help me. I can find fault with others. No, that's not going to help me with spiritual life. I have very weak faith in Shastras. No, that's not going to help me in spiritual life. What else can I do? I'm very attached to rules and regulations. It seems on the external side that that's a deficiency. How can I use this deficiency in Krishna service? I cannot use the deficiency of fault finding in Krishna service. I cannot use the deficiency of quarreling in Krishna service. I cannot use the deficiency of all the other disqualifications of Kanishta Adhikaris or problems in Krishna service. But I can use this deficiency of being attached to rules and regulations in Krishna service. How? By engaging in deity worship. That is one of the most important reasons why this is absolutely prescribed. Deity worship is prescribed like that. By doing this, with these rules and regulations, with the right hand, 3 times, 4 times around the feet, 3 times over here, twice around the face, do this, like that, take a bath, or the rules, regulation. Slowly, I become attached to the service. Oh, I must do it. It's time for Mangalati. Come on, I got to do this. It's time for this. It's time for that. Okay, I got to do it like that. I have to have this clean plate. I have 4 bowls, 8 offerings, 5 times. This, I become attached to the service. I can't live without that. And slowly, gradually, this attachment to service transforms into the attachment to the object of service. I cannot live without my Shri Radha Kalachandji. He's so beautiful, he's so wonderful. He takes care of my life. He's there everywhere. And now I am slowly developing the eyes to see his role in my life, not just on my altar, but in my life, in the very fabric of my being. One of the names of the Lord is Uttam Protham. Uttam Protham means crisscross. Why is the Lord called crisscross? Because fabric is crisscross. So when we see the Lord in the fabric of our lives, we say, oh, he's also crisscross. So now you see why we need that deity worship, because I have now elevated my consciousness. I can see the Lord in other places, in the fabric of my lives. My affection is no longer just restricted to the deity in my altar, on my altar, or in my temple. No, it's now to the Lord. And now I have a way to elevate my relationship further, deepen my relationship further with the Lord. So therefore, my dear friends, deity worship becomes so important. I hope this helped.
Very, very, very much. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Prabhuji, we've been here for quite a long
Yes,
time.
yes. I'm so sorry for keeping you guys for so
No,
long.
no. We have to say we are sorry for keeping you here for so long. But as we've been here, I'm realizing slowly that I'm realizing that Krishna and his name and his words are not different. I've seen so many times speakers will say, I have limited time. And once they start speaking, they don't remember I have limited time. They're taking over. So that is what Krishna and his holy names do. So we are eternally grateful. And if there is anything we can ask from the Lord or ask of the Lord is, dear Lord, we pray to thee that you will help give us this dry wood with full of fire in it. And then you yourself light the fire into this dry wood so that we can have big flame to touch each other and the rest of the world. And this firewood does not quench. It burns and burns and burns without end, so that we will have the opportunity to hear your holy names and the transcendental activities of your dear devotees. And we thank you so much, dear Lord. We thank you. Dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute yourselves, and we all, with one voice, one heart, chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest gratitude to our beloved speaker, His Grace Pandit Srivas Prabhu, for sharing his love and heart with us. Even though he shared his heart with us, but he hasn't lost his heart. He still has his heart in full. Please, we may all unmute. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mancha kalpa tarabhyascha, kripa sindhuvyevacha, patitaram pavanebhyo, vaishnavibhyo, namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. All glories to His Grace Pandit Srivas Prabhu ki jai.
Srila
All
Prabhupada
glories to
ki
His
jai.
Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj ki jai. All glories to Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the Assembled Vaishnavi devotees ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.